When I put up the ad for a roommate, I was already at my breaking point. My old roommate Sarah had bailed on me 3 months into our lease, leaving me to cover rent, utilities, and everything else on a part-time waitress's paycheck. I didn't have many options. If I didn't find someone fast, I'd be out on the street. The ad was simple. Roommate wanted, $700 a month, must be clean, quiet, and reliable. No pets, no drama. I didn't expect much, but within a day I got a reply. Her name was Megan. She emailed me a short message saying she was new to the city, looking for a place to stay and could move in immediately. She attached a photo, a smiling blonde in her mid-20s, with soft features and bright, friendly eyes. When she came to see the apartment, she was even more charming in person. She was well-dressed but not flashy, carrying a small duffel bag and an air of easy confidence. "This is perfect," she said after the tour. "I can pay first and last month's rent up front." That sealed the deal. I didn't have time to be picky. The first few weeks were fine. Megan was quiet, kept to herself, and didn't seem to have much of a schedule. She didn't work as far as I could tell, but she always had cash for rent and groceries. I didn't ask questions. It wasn't my business. The first red flag was the lock. One day I came home to find Megan installing a heavy-duty deadbolt on her bedroom door. "Is everything okay?" I asked, trying to sound casual. She smiled, brushing it off. "Oh yeah, I just like my privacy." The second red flag was the smell. It started as a faint sour odor wafting from her room. I figured it was food. Maybe she'd forgotten to throw out some leftovers. But it got worse, spreading through the apartment until I couldn't ignore it. I knocked on her door. "Hey Megan, everything okay in there?" No answer. After a moment, I tried the handle, but of course it was locked. When Megan came out of her room later that night, I asked her about the smell. She looked at me blankly for a moment, then smiled. "I'll take care of it." The next morning, there was a note on the fridge. "Sorry about the smell. Cleaning my room today. Thanks for understanding." The smell disappeared after that. I didn't ask what she'd done. Things started to feel off after that. One night I was looking for my charger and decided to check under the couch cushions. Instead, I found a tiny black device, no bigger than a button. A camera. My stomach twisted as I held it in my hand. I confronted Megan the next day, heart pounding. "Do you know anything about this?" I asked, holding up the camera. She blinked at it, her expression unreadable. "No. Where'd you find it?" "Under the couch." She frowned, shaking her head. "That's so weird. Maybe Sarah left it behind?" I didn't believe her, but I didn't push. That night I tore the apartment apart, searching for more cameras. I found 2 more, one in the bathroom vent and another hidden in a fake plant in the living room. My hands shook as I gathered them in a pile on the coffee table. "Megan," I said when she came home, my voice trembling. "We need to talk." She glanced at the cameras, her face carefully neutral. "What's this about?" "You tell me," I snapped. She tilted her head, her smile almost condescending. "I don't know where those came from, but if you're accusing me of something, maybe I should find somewhere else to stay." I was too stunned to argue. The next morning, Megan was gone. Her room was locked, her things still inside. I wanted to believe she'd left for good, but something didn't feel right. Later that day, I noticed her duffel bag by the front door. She hadn't left at all. That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind raced with paranoia, every sound in the apartment amplified by the silence. Finally, I crept to Megan's door and pressed my ear against it. Nothing. I don't know what possessed me to pick the lock, but I did. It took me longer than I expected, my hands shaking as the bobby pins slipped and scratched the metal. When the door finally opened, I froze. The smell was back, stronger than ever. Her room was meticulously clean. No clothes on the floor, no clutter, nothing personal except for a small notebook on the desk. I flipped it open, my heart pounding. Inside were pages of notes about me, my schedule, my habits, even details about my friends and family. She leaves for work at 8:15, usually home by 5:45, doesn't lock the bathroom window. My blood ran cold. I didn't hear Megan come in. "Find anything interesting?" she asked from the doorway. I whipped around, the notebook still in my hands. Her expression was calm, but her eyes were cold, calculating. "What the hell is this?" I demanded. She stepped closer, her movements slow and deliberate. "I told you, I like my privacy." "This isn't privacy," I snapped. "This is stalking." She tilted her head, her smile never reaching her eyes. "I think you're overreacting." I didn't sleep that night. By morning, Megan was gone again, her duffel bag missing. I took the opportunity to pack my things, shoving clothes and essentials into garbage bags as fast as I could. I didn't care about the lease or the rent, I just wanted out. As I loaded the last bag into my car, I felt a prickle of unease. I turned and saw her standing at the end of the street watching me. She didn't move, didn't call out. She just stood there smiling. I never went back to that apartment. The landlord called a week later asking why I'd abandoned the lease. He said Megan had cleared out her room, leaving nothing behind except a note on the kitchen counter. I asked him to read it to me. It said, "I'll see you soon." Months later, I moved into a new apartment, far from the city. I changed my phone number, deleted my social media, and tried to rebuild my life. But the paranoia never left. Every knock at the door, every unfamiliar face in the hallway, sent my heart racing. One night I came home to find an envelope taped to my door. Inside was a single photograph. It showed me standing in my new living room staring out the window. I stared at the photograph in my hands, my stomach twisting into knots. It wasn't just the image that scared me. It was the angle. The photo had been taken from the inside of my apartment, looking out at me as I stood by the window. I locked the door and called the police. The officer who answered listened patiently as I explained the situation, but his tone turned skeptical when I mentioned Megan. "Did you actually see her take the photo?" he asked. "No," I admitted. He sighed. "Without evidence, there's not much we can do. Keep your doors locked and let us know if anything else happens." I hung up feeling helpless. The next morning, I found a small black device sitting on my coffee table. Another camera. I hadn't put it there. My breath hitched as I scanned the apartment, every shadow and creak feeling like a threat. I grabbed the camera and stuffed it into a drawer, determined not to let Megan win. But she wasn't just trying to scare me. She was telling me she could still get inside. A week passed without incident. I started to believe she was gone, that maybe the photo and the camera had been her last moves. But then I saw her. It was late, and I was coming home from a long shift at work. As I unlocked the apartment building's front door, I caught a glimpse of someone standing across the street. Megan. She was leaning against a lamppost, her blonde hair glowing under the harsh light, a faint smile on her lips. I turned and went inside, my heart pounding. The next day I filed a report. This time I had details, a physical description, a location. The officer who took my statement nodded sympathetically but didn't seem hopeful. "Do you have any proof that she's been following you?" he asked. "No," I admitted. "Well, if she shows up again, call us right away." I left the station feeling defeated. That night I heard it, the unmistakable sound of the front door unlocking. I froze, my breath catching in my throat. I reached for my phone, fumbling to call the police, but my hands were trembling so badly I nearly dropped it. Footsteps echoed in the hallway, slow and deliberate. Then a soft knock at my bedroom door. "Sam," Megan's voice called, low and calm. "Let's talk." I didn't respond. The door creaked open and Megan stepped inside, her face calm and unreadable. "What do you want?" I demanded, my voice shaking. She tilted her head, her smile faint. "You left so suddenly. I thought we were friends." "This isn't friendship," I snapped. "It's stalking." Her smile widened. "You're so dramatic, Sam. I just wanted to check in. Make sure you're doing okay." "Get out," I said, my hands clenching into fists. She took a step closer, her eyes narrowing. "Or what?" I didn't think. I lunged. We collided, the impact knocking her back against the wall. She fought back with surprising strength, her nails raking across my arms as I tried to wrestle her toward the door. She reached for something in her pocket, a knife. The blade glinted in the dim light, and I barely managed to grab her wrist, twisting it until the knife clattered to the floor. I shoved her away and ran for the living room, my heart pounding. Megan followed, her footsteps heavy and fast. "You can't get rid of me!" she shouted. I grabbed my keys and bolted out the front door, not stopping until I was in the parking lot. Megan didn't follow me this time. I called the police from my car, my voice shaking as I described what had happened. They found her still in the apartment, sitting calmly on the couch as though nothing had happened. Megan was arrested for trespassing and assault, but she didn't stay in custody for long. She didn't do any serious harm, the officer explained when I called to follow up. There's not enough to hold her. The thought of her walking free made me sick. I moved again, this time leaving the city entirely. I deleted my social media, changed my phone number, and started using cash whenever possible. For months I lived in fear, jumping at every shadow, every knock at the door. But Megan never found me again. At least I hope she didn't. The night Megan broke into my apartment was the last straw. After the police arrested her, they assured me she would be charged with multiple offenses: trespassing, assault, and criminal harassment. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe again. "She won't be able to come near you," the officer said. "We'll make sure of it." But Megan's calm, smug demeanor as they let her out in handcuffs made me uneasy. "You'll miss me," she said, smiling over her shoulder. A week later, the police called me back to the station. "We've been looking into Megan," Detective Hall said, his expression grim. "We found some things during her booking and search that raise concerns." My stomach churned. "What kind of things?" He hesitated, then slid a folder across the table. Inside were photographs, pictures of me taken over the past 6 months. Some were from the apartment, others from my workplace, the grocery store, even my parents' house. "These were found in her car," he said, "along with a detailed journal tracking your movements." I felt sick. "Is that all?" He shook his head. "No. It gets worse." Detective Hall explained that Megan had been renting a storage unit under a fake name. When the police searched it, they found boxes filled with personal belongings, items stolen from me and others she'd targeted in the past. "Belongings?" I asked, my voice trembling. He nodded. Clothing, keepsakes, photos, and more cameras. But it wasn't just stolen items. One box contained a series of IDs, driver's licenses, work badges, even passports. Most of the names didn't match Megan's. "Who are they?" I asked. "We're still trying to identify everyone," Hall said. "But some of them have been reported missing." 26. The missing women. The investigation revealed a horrifying pattern. Megan had been moving from city to city for years, placing ads for roommates and ingratiating herself into people's lives. Each time she left a trail of victims, some stalked, some robbed, and some who simply vanished. "She's a predator," Hall said bluntly, "and you're one of the lucky ones." But I didn't feel lucky. During her interrogation, Megan remained eerily composed. She admitted to following me, breaking into my apartment and placing the cameras. "Why me?" I asked when I was allowed to confront her. Her smile was chilling. "You were easy, alone, desperate, too trusting." I wanted to scream at her, to demand answers, but her next words froze me in place. "But you're not my first, and you won't be my last." A few days later, the police made a public announcement. Megan's storage unit contained more than just stolen belongings. Hidden in a locked safe, they found a series of videotapes labeled with dates and names. The videos were evidence of Megan's crimes, footage of her stalking, tormenting, and in some cases, attacking her victims. The most disturbing tape was labeled simply, Sam. I couldn't bring myself to watch it, but Detective Hall described it in grim detail. "She filmed you for months," he said. "Inside the apartment, at work, even while you were sleeping. She wanted to document everything. But the worst part? The tape ended with a final clip. Megan sitting in her room, smiling at the camera. "She talks about her plans for you," Hall said. "How she was going to make you disappear." Megan was charged with multiple counts of stalking, breaking and entering, theft, and harassment. As the evidence against her piled up, her lawyers pushed for a plea deal. I attended every court hearing, determined to see her held accountable. The day she was sentenced to 20 years in prison was the first time I felt safe in months. But even as the judge read her sentence, Megan never stopped smiling. Months later, I received a call from Detective Hall. "We've identified more victims," he said. "People connected to Megan's past residences." The news should have made me feel better, knowing her crimes were being uncovered. But Hall's next words left me cold. "There's one more thing," he said. "We found another journal in her storage unit. It had a list of names. Your name was at the top." "And?" I asked, dreading the answer. "Underneath yours there was another note. 'Next time I'll do better.'"